Is that, if you can pop it into presentation mode, Vas.
That's what I'm trying.
It's not working?
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. Okay. So it's 6 a.m. now. So what I'll do is I'll start the webinar. Jenny, if you just want to give people, 30 seconds to a minute to start filtering through. I don't expect the numbers to, be too high this early in the morning. People will probably sleep through or, have other things pop up. But we will be recording this session, and I will pass those recordings on to Vas, and they can be distributed following the presentation. And if everyone can just mute while Jenny is speaking and then unmute when we come back to sort of the panel mode where you're all on the screen. Beck and I will turn our screens off now, and yeah, in about 30 seconds, if you want to make a start, Jenny. Thank you.
So we'll just give everybody 30 seconds to arrive. Okay, I think we'll begin. Yes. So welcome everybody to this session, whether you are here in the early morning in Australia or the middle of the day in some other parts of the world, including the States, or in the evening, I believe, in Europe, and I hope I've got those time zones right. Welcome to this webinar. Our title is Problematic Internet Use Treatment, something on many people's minds at this current time, especially with lockdown, sending many more people to gaming and internet use. And we're looking at the integrating international experience today. Our expert panel who've joined us are Dr. Hilary Cash, Dr. Kai Muller, and Mrs. Ivoni Papanastafou. Dr. Alexander Rodriguez is an apology this morning. This event is hosted by the Cyber Psychology Research Group through the Institute for Health and Sport at Victoria University. And moving on to our next slide. Thank you, Vasily. Just to give you an overview of what we're doing this morning. After I finish this short introduction, we'll pass over to Trent, who will introduce our panelists today. Then to Vasily, who will give an overview of the topic area that we'll be dealing with this morning. Then we will have our expert panel discussion, looking at those three topic areas you can see on the screen: treatment seeker profiles and comorbidity, treatment modalities employed, and treatment outcomes. There'll be an opportunity for questions from the audience, and then a closing aspect to the webinar that Vasily will provide for us. A short comment on why Victoria University is interested in this topic. A couple of interesting facts for those of you not in Australia, and perhaps for some of you who are in Australia. Melbourne is actually the hub of over 30% of the Australian gaming production studios. In the western suburbs of Melbourne, where our university is located, we've been shown to suffer a disproportionate share of losses related to online gambling and raising problematic internet use treatments requests, triggering further concerns. So this is an area of interest for our institute and our university. So welcome and thank you for your attendance. And I'll hand you over now to Trent for an introduction to our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, for the introduction there. So yes, I will be presenting this morning for Ivoni Papanastafou. I'll get that up now. So yes, so interesting. We've got Mrs. Papastefano Avon or Avoni. She's been working as a psychologist, psychotherapist in the psychiatric hospital of Attica in Greece, focused within the addiction rehabilitation unit called 1800 for over 15 years. During this time, she's served as a therapist in both the inpatient and outpatient substance abuse programs of the unit, as well as a specialised outpatient program for the treatment of problematic internet use, and has been initiated since 2009. So in brief, this program evolves in 3 phases: sensitisation and change motivation, which usually lasts about 2 to 3 months, the main psychological rehabilitation, which takes about 6 months approximately, and then the last stage, which is a social reintegration, which takes 8 to 11 months. So Mrs. Papastefano has coordinated various treatment activities, including individual, group, and family sessions addressing problematic internet use behaviours. She's been involved with clinical cases of excessive gaming, online pornography usage, and online gaming. Has been supervising clinical placements within the program. In relation to prevention activities, Mrs. Papastefano has delivered seminars to raise awareness of primary mental health professionals and inform the community about the problematic internet use across both Greece and Cyprus. She's received her MSc title in the School of Medicine from the University of Athens in the area of stress and health promotion. Motivated by her clinical experience related to the abuse of online pornography, she has additionally completed the specialised training on the diagnosis and treatment of psychosexual disorders, organised by the Research Institute for Mental Health at the University of Athens in the context of Aegean Show Hospital. I'll pass over now to Taylor to introduce the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation and the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
So today I will be introducing Dr. Hilary Cash, and I'm Taylor Brown, and I'm from obviously VU, and I'm a PhD student. Dr. Hilary Cash co-founded the Restart Life in 2009, where she's the Chief Clinical Officer. Restart is a residential program designed explicitly for adolescents and adults who are experiencing addiction to the internet and video games, as well as other mental health problems. In addition, Restart offers a transition program for adults and outpatient services. She began her work in the emerging field of internet addiction in the mid-90s, and by 1999, she had co-founded an outpatient clinic called Internet and Computer Addiction Services. In 2008, she co-authored the book Video Games and Your Kids and How Parents Stay in Control. She has co-authored several peer-reviewed journals and a workbook to be published by the International Institute of Trauma and Addiction Professionals in this coming May. She has been training parents, therapists, researchers, and educators since the 1990s. All these ongoing endeavours have brought her recognition as one of the nation's leading clinical experts in the growing field of internet and video games. Hilary is also a member of the APA Task Force for the revision of the DSM-5 in relation to internet gaming disorder as a formal diagnosis. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Hilary Cash.
Thank you for that.
And over to Dion to introduce.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much for that, Taylor. And I'm going to be introducing Dr. Kai Muir today. Let me just share my screen and I will begin that. Can you allow me the permissions to share my screen, please? I'm restricted at the moment. There we go, beautiful. Now, final panelist. Dr. Kai Muir is a senior research fellow at the University of Mainz, working in its outpatient clinic for behavioral addictions, an outpatient center that, mind you, he co-founded. There, he's developed a lengthy experience with treatment of substance-related addictions, in particular, gambling and gaming addictions, the last of which is the focus of today's seminar. Of particular note in this regard is his leadership in the creation of STICA, one of the first manualized treatment protocols for the treatment of internet-related behavioral addictions. Furthermore, he pairs that clinical experience with research experience, having made major contributions to the area of identifying and understanding the risk and protective factors of dysfunctional internet behaviors and the development of etiological models of those factors. All of this success has earned him the position of chairman of the German Association on Internet-Related Disorder, where he leads research on the treatment of internet-related disorders. Most recently, his work has involved projects such as a comprehensive evaluation of gaming disorder screening tools and articles providing commentary on the recent WHO recognition of gaming disorder, and an introduction to the issue. Please welcome Dr. Kai Mueller. And now I'll be handing it back to the organizers.
Thanks for the introduction.
Now that we have introduced our panelists, I'm going to briefly introduce a topic to kick the conversation. I'm going to talk about challenges in relation to the treatment of problematic internet use. And my name is Vasilios Stavropoulos. So what does problematic internet use involve? Although there is a consensus, since 20 years ago almost, regarding the existence of a pathological behavior related to the use of the web, different terms have been proposed to describe it, such as internet addiction, pathological internet use, problematic internet use, compulsive internet use, cyberspace addiction, or internet addiction disorder. And for a long period of time, there was inconsensus regarding the diagnostic category within which it should be classified. Is it an addictive disorder? Is it an impulse control disorder? Or is it an obsessive-compulsive spectrum disorder? If we wanted to visualize via a Venn diagram, addictive disorders and obsessive-compulsive spectrum disorders share a common space alongside with impulse control disorders. So when it comes to addictions and obsessive-compulsive spectrum disorders, in either conditions, individuals aim to regulate an arousal. However, whilst in obsessive-compulsive symptoms, individuals try to mainly avoid harm and distress, addictions are primarily driven by seeking gratification and are egosyntonic. In impulse control disorders, lack of control over the individual's behavior dominates, and this is the common space with the other two. Problematic internet use, if we had to place it somewhere on this Venn diagram, at least this is my opinion, would be somewhere there, and has been described as being triggered by one's need to moderate their discomfort. It is a pleasure-seeking behavior, and it entails one's lack of control over it. And the questions keep on. If it does exist, problematic internet use, does it have subtypes? Back in 1999, Kimberly Young suggested 5 different subtypes: the cyber relationship addiction form, the cyber sexual addiction form, the compulsive internet use form, the information overload, and the computer overuse form. Internet addiction or problematic internet use. What constitutes the cyber relationship addiction form? The abuse of any internet application which creates interaction between users, such as blogs, social media, chat rooms, and person versus person online games. What constitutes the cybersexual form? The abuse of online applications related to porn sites or cybersexual interactions such as chat roulette. Compulsive internet use form, online gambling and compulsive buying online. Information overload, wasting time to consume information from search engines which is not useful, cyber-loafing or cyber-slacking, and according to Young, computer overuse, the abuse of games offline, such as solitaire or backgammon due to online flow. Counter-arguments against this proposal started presenting. The first was that some of these behaviors are already known forms of pathology, simply manifested in a different context. So the compulsive internet use form, such as online gambling or compulsive buying online, is nothing else than impulse control disorders manifested in the online space. Another argument was that some of these behaviors are secondary pathological manifestations of other primary disorders and therefore should not be eligible to receive a separate diagnosis. For instance, the cybersexual addiction form has been linked with personality disorders such as borderline, whilst the information overload and the computer overuse form with procrastination behaviors very, very common among anxiety disorders. However, person versus person online games, due to the abuse of person versus person online games, due to their distinct characteristics, received by the APA in 2013 a provisional diagnosis under the title Internet Gaming Disorder, and further research was invited. 6 years later, in May 2019, the World Health Organization acknowledged gaming disorder as a distinct formal diagnosis. And the question remains, should other forms of problematic internet use be recognized as formal disorders? Are they? Independent of such questions, demand for specialized services has been increasing worldwide, whilst online self-help groups emerge. For instance, a NoFap online group is available to anyone who is looking to recover from online porn addiction and porn overuse. Their motto is, "Get a new grip on life." And Online Gamers Anonymous are available to anyone who self-identifies as an excessive internet gamer. For Australian users, they have a Zoom meeting every Sunday. In that context, services emerge worldwide, both in the public sector and the private sector, to meet PIU treatment needs, problematic internet use treatment requests. Representatives of such specialized treatment services are with us today to help us better understand the context and the challenges in this emerging field. So we have from Seattle, Washington, Dr. Hilary Cass from the Restart program. Their motto is "Think outside the box." From Germany, the University of Mainz, the short-term treatment of internet and computer game addiction, Dr. Kai Müller. From Athens, the Psychiatric Hospital of Attica, 18 Eino, the outpatient program for problematic internet use, Mrs. Ivoni Papastefano. And we would have today with us Dr. Alexandra Torres Rodriguez from the Pipatic program in Barcelona, Spain, but she is an apology due to being unwell. We wish her to get well soon. I'm going to place a link in the chat room for anyone from the audience who would like to share work and publications of the presenters. And I would like to welcome you all in this conversation and thank you for waking up that early. Thank you. Jenny, shall we go on with the topics?
Yes. Okay, so we're now ready to start off with our first subtopic, I guess, which is treatment seeker profiles and comorbidity. Correct? Yes. So I think some of the questions we've been thinking about, Vasily, are what are the most common comorbid symptoms you might find in this population? What are the cross-addictive behaviours? And what sorts of applications people might be using in their abuse syndromes?
Mm-hmm. Who would like to start? What is the profile of your treatment seekers? Hilary.
Okay, so what we see is that most of the clients come in depressed and anxious. In fact, that's truly universal. And the majority of them have got a diagnosis of ADHD. About a third of them have traits that we associate with autism spectrum disorder. Many of them have not received that diagnosis because they're way too high functioning. All of them are very, very bright. It's very unusual for somebody not to come who's extremely bright. And they also tend to have what Larry Rosen diagnosed or called, posited for the DSM-I disorder. And what that means is that we gave for many years the MCMI exam to everyone coming in when we were doing our assessments. And what we found is that there was a set of personality disorder traits which were showing up again and again and again, sort of clustered together. And this is exactly what he had posited in his book and called I disorder. And those traits are dependency, narcissism, antisocial, avoidant, schizoid, schizotypal, and melancholic, and masochistic, and borderline. So elements, traits from those personality disorders tend to cluster together. And for many of the clients, especially the clients we have found historically who had been gaming or online in front of screens through much of their childhoods. So those are the co-occurring disorders. They do tend to, more and more, we're seeing the use of marijuana along, when they come in, they're enhancing their gameplay through the use of marijuana. Some other drug use, the abuse of Adderall, for instance, or some alcohol use. But mostly when it comes to the abuse of drugs, it's marijuana. So that gives you an introduction anyway.
Hilary, can I please ask you, in terms of the internet applications of abuse, is it only gaming? Is it mostly gaming? Do you address other kind of applications?
Yes, I would say 98% of our clients are gamers. And what that really means is that the majority of their time is spent gaming, and they identify as gamers. Their self-esteem, their identity is built around the gaming prowess. Their social lives are built around gaming. So gaming is truly the world in which they it's the world they prefer to inhabit. Now, they may have, of course, they go on Discord and Twitch and YouTube and 4chan and other sites. They read up on gaming, but all of the social media and the other sites they go to tend to be game oriented. So it's really, they are obsessed with gaming. And for the most part, every once in a while, we have somebody who is a generalist and they are just surfing the web. Every once in a while, we have somebody who's pretty involved with social media, but that is rare. And those are the calls we get. It's for gaming.
I wonder, Hilary, are there any particular games that stand out?
Well, those have changed over time. When we opened in 2009, it was World of Warcraft.
Yes.
More recently, it's League of Legends. Minecraft is popular even with our young adults. Fortnite now, of course. both with our well, there isn't an adolescent who doesn't play Fortnite who comes into the program, and many of the adults are playing that too. But they love Dota, Counter-Strike. You know, these are online multiplayer games for the most part that they are addicted to, and they often have had there's a wide variety of games that they have played, but they are usually really dedicating themselves to one of those games I've named, usually, and are part of the community associated with that game that they prefer and so forth.
Yeah. So they would often have a particular game they've ended up spending their identity.
Really invested in. And one of the things that is changing that I'm seeing is they are now more and more of them are trying to find ways to be professionals within the gaming world. And this was not at all the case when we opened. That was a real rarity. Maybe somebody would come in wanting to be a game designer, but now they want to be online personalities, you know, who are getting tips for their gaming, or a few of them want, you know, hope that they'll be a great success in esports and, you know, make millions.
Yeah.
So, and many of them do still have the idea that they're going to be in the, you know, building computers, building software for computers, and often for computer gaming. So finding a way to make a living is what they hope to do. More and more, we see.
Interesting.
Kai or Ivoni? Shall we go with Kai?
Yeah, thank you. Well, basically, I don't have much to add what Hilary said, because it's quite the same among our treatment seekers regarding comorbid disorders. We have on first place depressive disorders, second place anxiety disorders, social phobia, for example. And we have, so perhaps this is also yeah, it resembles what Hilary said. We have also personality disorders among our treatment seekers. And this is quite a new information. We made recently a research project focusing on female patients suffering from internet use disorder. And here we found that the percentage of female patients had much more often also comorbid personality disorders compared to male patients. Yeah. And also they suffered from different kinds of anxiety disorders in terms of more post-traumatic stress disorder, for example, and not that often social phobia. So we made a formal analysis on it regarding comorbid conditions of our treatment seekers and published it a few years ago. And we found that about 70% of people coming to our institution were given a further diagnosis of a further mental disorder.
So it sounds like one of the things that everybody's saying is that many of the people who come into the clinics have disorders that have not been otherwise picked up. Would that be right?
I would like to comment on that, which is that many of the people who come to Restart have been to see therapists before, but the therapists have taken a backward, I mean, I think a very wrong-headed approach, which is to say, okay, they're playing video games too much, but it's really just because they're depressed. So we're going to try to treat the depression and not really address the gaming. And that turns out not to work very well. You have to treat them both. So.
We absolutely agree, Hilary. Kai, shall I please ask, Do you receive requests mainly for gaming or for other internet applications as well? And if yes, what are the proportions? Because you have a different population, a European population compared to the US. And it would be very interesting to see if there are differences and if differences in terms of the kind of clients that your program has.
Yeah. 10 years ago, we only saw patients introducing because of gaming disorder, internet gaming disorder. These made 90% of the treatment seekers. But as years have passed, different kinds of internet addictive behavior got more present to us. So it's still the condition that we have the majority of patients introducing because of internet gaming disorder. And the games they use in an addictive way resemble those named by Hillary. Formerly World of Warcraft, now League of Legends, Minecraft, Fortnite, and so on. The second most often population of patients is introducing because of online pornography disorder in the meantime. Yeah. So if you ask for percentages, I would say about 60% of the treatment seekers presenting because of internet gaming disorder, and about 20% because of online pornography disorder. And third place would be patients presenting because of overuse of social media, social network sites.
Kai, just out of curiosity, do you address online gambling abuse?
Yes, but not among the construct of internet use disorder. They are treated in our institution for the track of gambling disorder.
Okay, so you don't differentiate between excessive online gamblers and face-to-face online gamblers?
We do, but they are not anymore included in our STICA treatment program, but in our gambling treatment program. But we make a differentiation, of course. And what I recognized is that compared to 10 years ago, we have almost equal numbers of gamblers presenting because of classical gambling activities face-to-face and online gambling activities. So there's a clear raising numbers of online gamblers.
I have a question for you. The online gambling that you're talking about, is it gambling that looks like gambling, that is very recognizable as gambling, or is it the kind of gambling that happens in games with loot boxes and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, among our gambling patients, those are real online gambling activities, like online casinos, online poker rooms, and so on, or online slot machines. But indeed, we have a growing number of patients presenting because of gaming disorder, internet gaming disorder, that are making use of specific online games that encompass elements of gambling or gambling activities, not as the major point of the game, but as an additional aspect.
Ivoni, what about Greece? What do we have there?
Already I see that we all facing the same treatment challenges and experiences. But before I address your question, I would like to say a few things about the history of our unit. Shall I share my screen with you?
Yes, I believe you may.
Okay.
Are you able to?
Yes. Okay, you already said that we are a specialized treatment program of problematic internet use. Okay, our program is publicly offered and supported by Greek national funds. It is part of a broader addiction rehabilitation unit named 18 Anno. This operates in the context of the psychiatric hospital of Attica, which in turn a part of a Greek national health system. Founder of 18 Anno is the psychiatrist Katerina Matza, a pioneering figure in the field of addictions nationally, an author and an activist. And we view addiction as a social phenomenon, frequently carrying the double stigma. We found it in 2009, and our current scientific coordinator is Stella Christidis, psychiatry. Okay, in brief, we support that addiction has to do with the social crisis and the social vulnerability and the decomposition of social bonds. It reflects the discontent in a cultural demise, culture as a point for unhappiness, to paraphrase Freud. This discontent urges more vulnerable people to escape from this unbearable reality. And this is the foundation of the relationship between the person with the substance, the object of addiction. It is a relationship of exclusivity that deprives the person from social reality, others, and oneself. That's the words exactly of Katerina Matza. And regarding our profiles, profile of our treatment seekers, mostly we have family members and friends, and less frequently by the users themselves. And the main reason is the pressure from the close ones and all the consequences of problematic internet use. All forms of problematic internet use are eligible to treatment, independent of one's application of abuse. We accept problematic gaming, online porn, social media uses. Most of them are heavily involved with massively multiplayer online role-playing games, followed by those involved in gambling applications. Comorbidity is rather the rule than the exceptions. You already mentioned that is combined with depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, social phobia, and trauma experience being the most common, as bullying or a secret, hidden secret in the family. Considering the most common forms of other addictive behaviors present, for online gamblers, this tends to involve the abuse of alcohol, for the gamblers, yes, and for the gamers is marijuana. At the average age is 26, 27 years old, but the gamers tends to be younger than the online gamblers. And they have been using their application of abuse about 8 years now, before they came to our unit. And the vast majority are single, they're not physical active, they tend to be sleep deprived, to neglect their physical hygiene. They have mostly stopped going out of the house and have compromised their work and personal relationship. And most of our clients have unsuccessfully tried to abstain or to reduce their usage time online. Did I cover the question? No.
Yes, I believe you have. I believe you have. Yvonne, can I please just clarify? So you are addressing gamblers and gamers and pornography users within the same.
Sorry.
Within the same unit, within the same program.
We try to individualize our intervention. Our treatment strategies vary depending on the client's age, presenting problem, and we try to assess comorbidities to design a more accurate intervention. So the gamers and the online pornography abusers are placed in the same group of psychotherapy and drama therapy and progress together, all the 3 phases of our programs. And when online pornography is combined with sexually activity behaviors, we do refer to another public service. And online gamblers are placed in separate groups and following.
Okay.
The same progress. Yeah.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you. That makes
Thank
sense.
And Ivoni, did I hear you correctly? Did you say you also interact with the families or family members of your clients?
Yes, we try to have some groups of psychoeducational with the families. Even the individuals didn't come in the program. In order to motivate them, in order to arise awareness about the problematic internet use. And in some cases, we have noticed that even the individuals didn't come to the program. There already there is a progress because the family has makes some changes.
Okay. Makes sense. Can I please ask the other two? Is it the same case with you? So are you first approached by the families or the clients themselves?
In our case, it is almost entirely we are approached by the families, and like Ivoni does in her program, we always incorporate family work into the treatment program. More intensively for the adolescents, because those adolescents are going to be returning home. Less intensively, but nonetheless it's there for the adults, because our hope is that the adults probably won't return home. They are kind of ready to go back to university and kind of get on with their independent adult lives. But it's not they who seek the treatment, it is their families.
It's a little bit different in our institution. Among adolescents or underage patients, it's indeed the family that is contacting our institution. But when patients get older, they usually feel themselves that they are not getting along with life and can't take care of responsibilities and can't participate in real life anymore. So in adult patients, it's not the family that initiates the contact, it's the patient himself.
Which is a nice advantage, because you know they're motivated.
Definitely.
Would those seems like they're mainly men, would they have had those problems from adolescence generally?
Are you asking Kai?
Yes,
or
I was,
both
but
of us?
either. But Kai was commenting on adults coming in on their own, so I wondered if they had that problem, you know, ongoingly, or if it had become perhaps worse. Did they have some function that they have lost, which has motivated them to?
Yes, I can be quite clear on this point, because that's it's one element of our treatment program, that we are looking at the development of the addictive behavior regarding the lifespan. And usually the problematic behavior originates in adolescence or even in childhood. We see in patients introducing nowadays in our institution that they started at really early ages, spending most of their time playing computer games or video games. And I'm not surprised anymore when I hear patients saying that he started spending excessive time playing computer games at the age of 5 or 6 years. Yeah? So it usually begins in childhood or adolescence, indeed. Yeah.
I believe we have covered the area around the profile of the clients and comorbidities, and who are these people who are seeking treatment in your services and how different they may be across the different countries. Shall we progress with the second area, Jenny?
Yes, so we've started to move into the second area, I think, haven't we, naturally, which is talking about the treatment modalities that are employed in each area, whether you change the modality of treatment offered based on the client's application that they're abusing, and do you think inpatient treatment is needed, and if so, when would you consider that? Would you like to start, Kai, since we started with Hilary last time?
Yes, sure. Our program, STICA, was developed for covering different kinds of internet use disorder, no matter if it's about gaming or online pornography or social networking sites. It seems to work for all those subtypes, but we see significant differences in some aspects, for example, between gamers and patients addictively using online pornography. So we have now started to develop an online pornography specific treatment program, which generally is closely related to the treatment elements we have implied in STICA, but we added some new aspects. We didn't publish it yet, but we are currently running some pilot treatment trials on patients suffering from online pornography addiction, and are quite optimistic that we can address more issues more specifically related to online pornography use. But generally spoken, we have made really good experiences when treating all subtypes of internet use disorder with one treatment program. It works, and we have made good experience with it, but still we are thinking to amend our treatment approach by specifically addressing pornography specific aspects. And your second questions regarding inpatient treatment, yes, we have regularly dismissed patients from our outpatient to an inpatient setting. Actually, in our diagnostic process, we focus on the indication, and if there are no psychosocial resources, if the comorbid disorders are too severe, if there's a very low level of psychosocial functioning, this would be a clear hint of getting an inpatient treatment.
Before we go to someone else, quick question. How long does your program last?
STICA is about 50 weeks.
About 50 weeks.
Yes.
And do you have this recycling of patients, or patients who relapse and then re-engage with the program, and then the process may be prolonged? Is that the case?
That's also possible. Usually after 1/3 of the treatment, of the outpatient treatment, we have a clearer view on the pathology of patients, and usually then further treatment in inpatient setting sometimes is necessary, and afterwards patients can get back to our institution for the outpatient treatment.
Makes complete sense. So 50 weeks, you would say?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Kai.
I'd like to just ask a question, Kai. When you send them for inpatient treatment, are you sending them to a program? What kind of program do you send them to? Is it a program that mixes the process addictions with the chemical addictions, or what kind of program is it?
That's really hard to answer, because in Germany we have different so-called psychosomatic rehabilitation centers, and each of them has a different treatment program. Yeah, so they have different aspects. They are more strongly emphasizing when their inpatient treatment starts. So it's a really mixed setting. Yeah? Usually we have about 5 or 6 rehabilitation centers that we are contacting more often, because we have received very positive feedback from patients that use their inpatient treatment. So, but unfortunately, the question isn't that easily to be answered because it's so mixed. Yeah.
Larry, what are your treatment modalities, if we go to you? Yes.
Okay, well, so we are a program that has a 3-month intensive residential program that is and it's not just 3 months, it might be longer than 3 months, depending on whether or not a client is ready to progress. And about 70% of our clients who go through that intensive 3 months then go on to our transition program. And the transition program is essentially an IOP, intensive outpatient program. We have a center that's urban. They have been living in a rural setting for 3 months. Now they move into apartments near our urban center, and they are expected now to get jobs part-time and spend the rest of their time coming to the center, and then slowly building out their lives as they get used to being out in the world, which they do tend to find extremely stressful. That program on average lasts 6 to 9 months. And by the time they are ready to leave that program, they're either working full-time or they are doing a combination of work and back at university, sort of trying to regain their confidence in themselves academically. And they, the idea is for them to be developing the skills that they have been lacking and developing confidence in themselves, sort of to navigate the world, to be social, to meet new people, because they are almost always pretty socially anxious. So, developing that facility with socializing and making new friends takes a long time. And then, we lease apartments that they then rent from us. And those are the Restart apartments. They're not allowed to have screens in the first program. In the second program, they can come to our center to use computers. They're not allowed to have computers in their apartments. They start off with what's called a GAB phone, which has no internet access, although it looks like a smartphone. And we will experimentally, after 3 months of that, if they are doing the program well and they seem to be progressing well and they want to give a try to having their smartphones back, we will give those back to them experimentally. But we find that they often stumble and relapse as soon as they have access to the internet on their smartphones. So then there's a whole therapeutic process that we go through to get them ready to handle smartphones again. When during this time, through all of from the moment they come to Restart and through this open world program, they're usually having 2 individual sessions a week and then multiple groups throughout the days, Monday through Friday. More intensive, the second half of the first program. Then when they're an outpatient, we expect them to be coming Monday through Friday for groups and individual sessions and case management. And we go and we inspect their apartments, make sure they're maintaining cleanliness, make sure they're not bringing in contraband and all of that kind of thing. And then about 2/3 of those clients actually finish that open world program successfully and are ready to move on. And moving on for some of them means just they're gone, they leave Restart. But moving on for some of them means going into a third program we have, and that third program is called Sustainability. Now they move out, they find some friends and they sign leases for apartments, they move in by themselves, and they just pick and choose what services they want from Restart. And those are usually pretty minimal. And they now have their laptops back and their smartphones, except some of them make the decision that one of the services they want is for us to continue having their smartphone and their computer, because they really just don't feel that they are ready for that, but they're ready for greater independence. And so, you know, we can kind of modify the program and tailor it to what they need. And so it's not unusual for people to be with us for a year or longer. The shortest amount of time anybody is with us is 3 months if they only do the intensive program, 9 to 12 months if they include the transitional program in the IOP, and then up to 2 years maybe if they decide to go into sustainability.
That's very interesting. So it's a prolonged therapy that resembles a lot treatment programs for other forms of addictions. Other forms of addiction. I'm just tempted to ask one more question. If your clients develop a kind of romantic relationship with each other, do you allow that, or you follow the rule that we follow in traditional treatment approaches of addictions, where we say we discourage that because it may cause a relapse? And is that?
Yes, we follow that rule. So our request to our clients is not to get romantically involved there's little opportunity within the program unless they're gay, because it's mostly men in the program. But if we say, please don't start dating until you've been in the program at least a year, and hopefully by that time you're doing 12-step work. We created our own 12-step program called Internet and Technology Addicts Anonymous, and they are doing that. We encourage them to go to Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, because they all have what we would call intimacy disorder. They don't have a clue how to initiate, build, and maintain emotionally or sexually intimate relationships. And so we very much encourage them to participate in Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, which really have that very directly as a goal, is to help them move beyond their intimacy disorder. And they don't always follow our advice, but they usually do. And we wouldn't kick them out of the program if they didn't follow our advice. It's not going to get them out of the program, but it will be certainly a subject of a lot of therapeutic conversation. But I have to say, what happens, because our guys are so intimacy disordered and they have reached adulthood without ever having dated, and I'm sure Kai and Ivani know about this very, very well, they're absolutely terrified of dating. And what we've seen is that their terror at dating will often actually produce a lapse or a relapse, because they just are absolutely, their anxiety just goes through the roof. Yeah.
Kai and Ivoni, is that the case with your clients, before we go to Ivoni and treatment modalities? Kai, is that the case?
Yeah, it is. It's a big issue. Yeah.
Ivoni, treatment modalities that we have in Athens? I say we
Okay, I would like to say that I find really interested for the STICA program, and we're looking forward to read about this for the specification about the online pornography. And of course, I would like to say that we don't have any patient setting, but we would like to have something similar to Restart program, close to the nature, because we believe that the nature is healing itself. So what about us? We have a multimodal treatment orientation. This integrates various psychotherapeutic approaches, such as CBT techniques, assisted family therapy, drama therapy, and social work. This is a weekly evaluation. There is a weekly evaluation of one's progress by the team, by the treatment team. And so the first phase is sensitization and change motivation. During this phase, we address one's treatment request and assessment and the motivation for change. And individual therapy sessions are offered. This phase lasts about 2 months. And after that, there is the second phase, psychological rehabilitation, combines individuals and group treatment processes. One is required to attend weekly a group drama therapy, an individual therapy session, family therapy when required. And in that phase, the function of addiction in their lives and its etiology are addressed. And this phase lasts about 10 months. And lastly, we have the social reintegration. The aim of this phase is for one to become socially functional by getting a job, progressing in their real life relationships, and preventing relapses, as they mentioned. The notion of personal responsibility is emphasized. And in this phase, they have individual bi-weekly sessions for approximately 6 months. And the application of what one has learned in therapy is expected in that phase.
So if only 2 months first phase, 10 months this, and approximately 6 the third, and in the third clients bi-weekly, so every second week. It's like a follow-up.
It's like a follow-up, exactly, like a follow-up. Yes.
Okay, and you rely on group processes in the second phase. You include drama therapy and did you say art therapy?
Yes, art therapy. It's in the drama therapy. It's included in the drama therapy, and yes, we can say that even we have sometimes very quiet sometimes the group are very quiet, but in the drama therapy sessions, they can express themselves through art, so things get better there.
Okay. So they're quiet groups, they don't talk.
It's groups. Drama therapy belongs to the therapist through art. It's a holistic experiential psychotherapeutic approach, and there they use the connection between fantasy and reality. And what I have said is they can help through creative expressions and awareness of the role they use in the everyday life in the virtual world, because we perceive the personality as a sum of roles, and the treatment goes through the role. I don't know if makes sense what I'm saying. Anyway, and because many emotions, they cannot be expressed in speech, with the help of drama therapy, take all this as shape, and it becomes possible to verbalize. We will see progress through drama therapy. Is, let's say, the traditional space between the real and the virtual world, to summarize somehow the drama therapy. Sorry for what it means.
Do you also have the same boundary about romantic relationships? Are they allowed to have romantic relationships with each other or not?
No, they don't allow to have it. It's a rule. Most of them is males don't have such problems. We didn't face it. But we don't allow it to get out together. We have it as a rule before, but now we see that it's a good thing, unless they bring what happened outside in the group in order to discuss what's going on, the dynamics, if some dynamics emerge.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, are there any other questions? Have we covered the treatment modalities part?
Yes, I think we have, in terms of our time frame as well. I think we could keep talking, but perhaps we should move to our third part, which is treatment outcomes. What are the percentages of relapses, dropouts, continuation, and success in the program? We've heard some comments on that as we've gone along, but if we could ask you to address that question, that would be great. Hilary, would you like to start?
All right. So I have done some informal research with our adolescents in preparation for a presentation a couple of years ago. And I just sent out a questionnaire asking 4 questions on a scale of 0 to 5. How was the adolescent program is only males. So how was your son's internet use on that scale before restart, and how is it now? And these are for all 4 clients who had been out of the program for at least 4 months. And then the second question was, what was his overall global functioning before restart, and how is it now? And before restart, for both questions, was 0. That's what all the parents said. And for after post-restart, it was 4.1 and 4.2 on that 0 to 5 scale. That's pretty darn good. So now only half the parents responded to the survey. So I don't know for sure what was going on with the other half, but for that half, the results were very positive. In the adult program, we actually are working with a group of researchers. I have been for years begging researchers to come and work with us. And finally, there are 6 of them, including Vas Dariakus and some of the other characters you know from our task force, you know, like Julia Brailovich and so forth. And one of the things I am trying to convince them to do is to do some outcome research, because we really don't know for sure what the long-term outcomes are for our clients, and we need to know. So we're very anxious to see what will come of that. I did already tell you that, you know, there's this 70% go into the second program and are with us 9 to 12 months. And of those, 2/3 finish the program well and successfully. Of the third that drop out, 1/3 drop out because they absolutely will not commit to recovery. 1/3 drop out because they're really not appropriate for a program. They tend to be folks who are on the spectrum and too low functioning to be independent, because that second program really requires a fairly reasonably high level of independence. And a third drop out for financial reasons. So that's what I can tell you about outcomes.
Kai or Ivoni, who would like to continue with treatment outcomes or evidence, anything that you have to say about your treatment outcomes?
Okay. Let's pick Kai.
Okay, I can say a few words regarding treatment outcomes. We had a large RCT on exactly that question that was published 2 years ago, and so we had as main treatment outcomes the psychosocial level of functioning, of course, symptoms related to internet addictive behaviors, depressive symptoms, and perceived quality of life and psychological well-being. In our analysis of this trial, we had a 6-month follow-up, and after 6 months, we had surprisingly high numbers of patients still being in good condition. They were still able to manage either clearly controlled consumption of games or being totally abstinent from it. And they perceived also a high level of psychological well-being and a high level of psychosocial functioning. And also decreased levels of depressive symptoms. So, but of course, we also have a percentage of patients suffering from relapse, and this percentage amounted to about 50%. 15%, not 50, 15. That's an issue we are still working on, thinking about new strategies to apply in our treatment in order to prevent exactly this population of relapsers to slip back into the addictive behavior. And to add this information among our adolescent treatment seekers, we are not that good. There are higher levels of relapse and lower levels of successfully finished treatment, higher dropout rates also.
Can I ask a question? And I'm curious, Kai, why do you think that is happening with the adolescents?
I think it's related to the topic we discussed before. To my mind, it's closely associated to a lower motivation to change, to a lower level of motivation to change that is typically present in our underaged patients compared to adult patients. I think this is at least one important point that might be predictive of that phenomenon.
And I think it's very reasonable for someone who hasn't experienced the consequences of their abusive behavior for a longer period of time to be less motivated, and it tends to be the case with other forms of addictions too. What is surprising with what you're both reporting is that the percentages of success appear to be higher, or the outcome of treatment appears to be more positive compared to what we know for other forms of addictions, where if we achieve anything between 20 and 40%, we are satisfied because we lose the clients. So it seems that this form of abusive behavior is likely more, it has a better prognosis, probably.
At least to add this, among certain conditions and circumstances, we should remember that patients we are treating in our outpatient program are meeting some criteria that can be perceived as important resources. They are not that chronically addicted as patients that are dismissed into inpatient settings. So we have to keep in mind that our patients are still able to manage basics of their life. They are not regarding their psychosocial level of functioning that depressed as patients that need to have an inpatient treatment.
And on top of that, they are coming of their own accord. Right. So they're coming with a good level of motivation to change.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Ivoni, what is the effectiveness in Greece of this outpatient unit there? You are muted. You are muted, Ivoni.
Sorry. On an average, we receive about 2,000 treatment requests yearly. Of those now, only the half of them are eligible to attend the program for the same reasons. Some of them need to be referred to another service due to a different principal diagnosis. Some of them present exaggerated concerns regarding their internet use, although they are functional in their lives, or they're reluctant to get into therapy. And in some cases, we provide shorter counseling or psychoeducational sessions in relation to problematic internet use. But of those who at the end attend the program, approximately 40% they will complete it. Okay, so we must say that we have dropped out in the beginning because of the low motivation, and maybe something is the principal diagnosis.
Only, may I interrupt? Just to clarify the number, you said 2,000 or 200 per year? Is it 2,000 approximately?
200.
So you have, let me summarize, you have 200 therapeutic requests per year. Out of those, 50% are eligible to attend.
Yeah.
And some people have exaggerated concerns and some others have other principal diagnoses, so you refer them to other services.
We provide a certain counseling or psychoeducational session, let's say for 3 months, summarize this. And because the duration of our program is long, it's about 1.5 years. That's why I'm saying that in some cases it's enough to have a certain counseling or psychoeducational sessions.
Thank you. Jenny, have we covered all 3 areas?
Yes, we have covered all 3 areas, and I think we should move to questions from the audience now. So we'll hand over to Dion and Trent to manage that.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I thought we'd start with answering a question asked by one of the audience members. I saw this at 6:25 and they've waited very patiently for it. It's a question for Hilary Cash, and that is, what is the age range of your gamer clients?
The adult program, they come in mostly between the ages of 18 and 28. Some of them are older. We have had some who are in their 30s, and we've had even a couple in their 40s, but really none older than that. And within that range, the vast majority of them are probably 19 to 23. That's probably where, yeah, the majority of them land, but they range. For the adolescents, they come in at 13 up to 18. They can come into the adolescent program if they are 18 but haven't finished high school, because our adolescent program is also a school. And so if they haven't finished high school, they can come.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Hilary. Our next question is from Tony Brain. And that is also Tony. That is a wonderful last name. That's hopefully it implies the truth about you. But the question is, at the less extreme but still excessive level, do you see that there is simply a strong social element or motive rather than money and status as motive? And that is to all the panelists.
Well, I'll jump in first, I guess, and that is that I think the social element is a very key driver, no matter how serious it is. This is why they're playing massive multiplayer games online, is because they want to belong. They want to be part of a community. They're lonely, they're isolated, and they need social contact. Now, I view that social contact that they get, that it's like feeding sugar to a starving person. In the end, they still will starve, but it sort of satisfies momentarily satisfies the craving for social contact. But whatever their level, I think they're very strongly driven by that.
Yes, I would totally agree to Hilary. It's absolutely important to have a look at the social motivation, the social dynamics involved in especially massive multiplayer online role-playing games, and they are important aspects of that needs to be addressed in the treatment.
Beautiful. Did you have anything to add, Yvonne?
Yes. In our clinical experiences, we have faces many times individuals that they have bullied for many years at schools. So for them, it's terrified to get close to another one. And another treatment challenge that we face is the collective relapses also through word, data, or chat application, because of that need to be together and to belong somewhere.
Sorry, go on. Did you have anything to add? I saw you were about to talk there. No? Right, sorry about that. As a follow-on to that, I'd actually like to ask my own question. This is something I was thinking of when I was hearing you all speak earlier about the correlates of gaming disorder and problematic internet use, and that I think relates to that last question asked by Tony Brain. By Gabriel. Yes, by Tony Brain. And the question is, what social factors are associated with the development of gaming disorder? If these people want to belong and have a kind of hunger for belongingness, does that come from a specific social situation? Is there perhaps something that parents can do when molding the social situation of their children to kind of prevent these disorders from taking place? And we'll start with you, Hilary.
You addressed to me this question, or general to everyone?
Just to everyone. I thought we'd go with Hilary first because we kind of got that order that we've been going through. But if you want to begin, Yvonne, that would.
No. I'm just questioning. Sorry.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, so I think that part of the problem with child development in our current cultural context is that parents themselves are on screens a great deal, and they are bringing screens into the lives of their children at a very early age. And the net result of that is children who are socially behind in terms of their development. They're lacking in good social skills. And of course, if they're on the autism spectrum, they're struggling particularly with those social skills. But even if they're not on the spectrum, if they've been spending too much time in front of screens, they're struggling socially. Certainly if they're being bullied at school, that's going to be another problem. And sometimes that's the result of those poor social skills. So in terms of what, parents need to be educated to really understand this. I'm a great advocate of public health, public education, which is completely lacking in our country. And I don't know about Germany and Greece, but certainly lacking in our country. And so parents are incredibly ignorant about child development and the needs of children when it comes to screen use. So, and then I find that schools are also extremely ignorant about the potential pernicious effects of screens as well. So I think education is where it's at.
Wonderful, thank you, Hilary. And Kai, did you have anything to add there?
No, actually not. Again, I agree with Hilary, and regarding public health actions, I can add for Germany that it's developing in our country since some years in order to prevent internet addiction and gaming disorder. But of course, what is still missing are clearly structured, standardized programs, and of course their evaluation is still lacking and missing. So we still don't know, even if these programs are implemented since several years, we don't have a clear idea if they work and what works in them. So this is a clear problem and should be addressed in the future.
And you, Yvonne, did you have anything to add on to that?
Yes, okay. I would like to agree with Hilary Kass. And also I would like to say that as regards the Greek reality, parents are all overworked and overprotective or unemployed. As most of them prefer to have a child at home who haven't to feel safe, that there is no danger. And the problems, the starting point is about in high school, and culminates after the final exams at the beginning of college life. And here in Greece, there is a lot of pressure for academic success. And this pressure for completion of studies is that forced families to get into therapy. And because of the socio-economic crisis, emerged difficulties in the functioning of the family. The stressors in the family increased. The parents has to overcome a lot of financial difficulties. A new dynamics family emerged. So we had many families in crisis. They have to deal with a severe illness or a hidden secret such as adoption. So we need to support these families, okay? And we need to educate them. And another phenomenon is that they give to the toddlers the smartphones from 2 years old. So, and now during pandemic, this phenomenon increased, because they want to work from home. And if you have a 2-year-old running around, this is impossible. So you give them a tablet or another screen in order to babysitting, digital babysitting, to do the digital babysitting, these things.
And just to follow on there, Yvonne, so if these parents are using screens to raise their children, and there's always new pressures that are causing a bit of social disruption, what can be done there? What is there a way to fix these social kind of maladies, or to try and adjust the environment to prevent gaming addiction or pornography disuse or something like that?
Most of them, they're not so aware of the dangers of the internet, if you ask me, something like that. They don't speak a lot of these things. They lie to the school to do all this job, to educate them about the dangers of the internet.
Well, we've unfortunately running out of time. So thank you very much, Dion and Taylor, and our panelists for answering the questions. And I'll just hand over to Vasilios for our wrap up. Thank you.
I'm going to be very brief. Thank you all for attending, and thank you for the interesting information you provided to us. In summary, when it comes to the profile of clients in such services in the US, Germany, and Greece, it seems that gamers of younger age tend to dominate the field. We have a difference in Germany with pornography abuse, 20%, which prompted them to develop a specialized program that they are going to publish the effectiveness of which later on. In Greece, online gambling seems to also be a dominant kind of application of abuse when it comes to profiles. Comorbidity across the 3 countries appears to be the rule and not the exemption. So comorbid disorders, comorbid presentations, mainly depression, anxiety, ADHD, personality disorders seem to co-occur. But as Hilary very nicely noted, these need to be co-treated with one's excessive internet use behavior, and not to isolate and distinguish one from the other. When it comes to the treatment modalities, all treatment programs seem to be quite lengthy in time. Kai mentioned 50 weeks. Hilary, definitely over a year, and in some cases 2 years of engagement. Yvonne, approximately 1.5 years, which reminds us of lengthy treatment programs related to addictions in general. Multimodal treatment appears to be the case in the US and Greece. In Germany, more CBT-based treatment, cognitive behavioral therapy treatment, seems to be the case. Kai made a very interesting note there. He said, we select our clients, the profile of our clients is selected to fit the profile of the program, and that to some extent may affect our success rates. And going to that point, success rates, effectiveness, Hilary pointed out that the first indications are very positive, but more work needs to be done, and we are looking forward to see what she's going to do with her team. She has 6 researchers there working with Restart data. We are looking forward to see what the results will be. Kai has already published RCT studies, and the effectiveness of the program seems to be, the STICA program seems to be quite high. And Yvonne mentioned a 40% approximate rate of completion for Greece. She also noted very interestingly that out of the 200 approximately treatment requests that they receive per year, some of these, 50% of these, tend to be people who suffer from other symptoms, and they refer to other services, or people who have an exaggerated worry about the use of the internet, and therefore they are not eligible for treatment. These points pave the way for further progress in the field. We are hoping that you will be able to collaborate with each other, and probably with Alexandra Torres Rodriguez and other programs worldwide, because you have a valuable you are valuable sources of information, considering how these clients, how these new forms of disorders and difficulties can develop. And this is how I'm going to close here for today. Thanking you all, saying good morning to Australia, good afternoon to the US, and good evening to Europe.
Good night. Good night to Europe. Good night.
I can see guys cut going in the screen. Very nice having you all, and thank you for making the time and being patient with our questions and the process. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you really much. It was a great pleasure.
Yes, and I would like to say that thank you to give us such opportunity to exchange our clinical experiences. And I would like to pose a question for the next webinar. Shall we anticipate an increase of people with problematic internet use as direct or indirect effect of pandemic? Shall we?
Yeah.
I don't know. See you at the next webinar.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.